Welcome to the Everceline podcast, the show that ignites your passion for leadership and empowers you to develop a culture of continuous improvement. I'm your host, Matt Sims, and in each episode, we bring you fascinating insights and invaluable tips from our incredible lineup of guests. What do they all have in common? They share an unwavering dedication to excellence and are the experts in driving engagement, improving metrics, and reducing costs.
The Everceline podcast with Matt Sims. You know it makes sense.
This episode is sponsored by Catalyst Consulting Limited. Catalyst Consulting exists to help people and organisations work better today and be ready for tomorrow. They have a rich history of igniting business transformation using business agility, lean, Six Sigma, strategy deployment, agile, and change management. They can help you and your organisation to develop the skills necessary to work and manage differently. To find out more, check out catalystconsulting.co.uk. Welcome along to the Everceline podcast, where in today's episode, we're privileged to host Daniel Astarita, an accomplished managing director at Kesslers London, key players in the retail design industry, where they offer their customers a full end-to-end service with global teams working together from design all the way through to implementation. With over a decade of leadership experience, Daniel brings a unique blend of business acumen and personal resilience to our conversation. Guided by the company's mantra, make UK retail the most exciting destination in the world, Daniel has spearheaded Kesslers' remarkable achievements, going from zero to a 15 million turnover in 2.5 years. Today, we'll explore Daniel's journey from revitalising a struggling 130-year-old business to the strategic decisions driving Kesslers' success. Join us as we delve into the innovative approach to retail design, the crafting of in-store experiences for global impact, and the values that make Kesslers a standout player in the industry. So without further ado, let's welcome Daniel to the Everceline podcast, where we will uncover the stories behind leadership, resilience, and the pursuit of excellence, all making UK retail the most exciting destination in the world. Daniel, welcome to the Everceline podcast.
That was the best introduction I've ever had in my life. No one's ever been that nice to me, so it's an absolute pleasure to be here, Matt. Thank you.
Didn't your best man at your wedding give you an introduction like that?
Not as good as that.
As
good as that. No, absolutely.
Give me his number. I'll send him over this, and he can, if you ever get married again, he can use it again.
You can do the next one. That's fine. Yeah.
Well, welcome aboard. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you joining us today. And you are officially the first guest we've had on the podcast from the retail industry. So you're kind of like a trailblazer here. You're setting the tone. Who's the guy off Dragon's Den that does retail? I can't think of his name now.
Diego Fetus was the old Ryman one, wasn't he?
Yeah, I've always thought, I'd love to go on Dragon's Den, but I think they edit it to make you look stupid. That's the worry.
Absolutely do. Absolutely.
It's the same with The Apprentice. I watch The Apprentice and I'm screaming at these Wallies thinking, what are you doing? Like, I could do this. I could do better than that. But they must make them look stupid.
I think it's all about this, the new age and our sort of consumption for poor TV. The original Apprentice one that Tim won, he came across quite well. We're quite clever, and there's a few clever people on there. Fast forward now, these guys are just sort of wannabe celebrities kind of thing. And I'm sure there's a bit of editing, but I also think there's a bit of self-damage in there as well.
Yeah, Joe, I love it when they edit in that, like someone will come up with an idea and they edit in this like really awkward silence, and then it just cuts to people just looking like into space. Right? It's brilliant.
I mean, I don't know how you could edit in the one from last season. Was it when they created baby food and it was something to do? You used the word "dies" in the baby food. I was like, that can't be editing. That's just genuinely stupidity. That is.
Right, so this is an amazing story. So you took over a business that was 130 years old and was, quite honestly going down the pan.
It went down the pan. So the business, like you said, 130 years old. One of the oldest design and manufacturing business in the shop fitting game in Europe, not just the UK, it was in Europe at the time. Family business up until about 6-7 years ago. The family sold it into private equity. And I worked there. I was a sales director, and we had a brief from private equity to grow the business and to grow it aggressively, which we did. The problem is we weren't making any money. And, we had this vision of selling the business for a load of money and all getting rich off the back of this wonderful turnover number. COVID happened, customers stopped wanting things. We had all this overheads, and private equity walked away. We made 180 people redundant on the 16th of December, 2 weeks before Christmas. Oh. And that was the end of this business. That was the end of this brand that had been around for so long. I'd worked there for 7 years before, and I'd always thought we could do it better, but never really had the courage to sort of voice my opinion to these sort of huge, private equity machines that exist. So I approached the administrators and said, look, I'll buy the brand, I'll buy the IP, and I think I can do it better. And I ended up buying it with an investor, and we set about restarting it 3 years ago to something that was much closer aligned to the original business that had existed and been successful for 120 of the 130 years. And here we are today, going into year 3 and looking at another year of sort of 10, 12% growth, but more importantly, profitable, making investments into people, into factories, and hopefully doing well for our customers.
But your wife must have been thinking, what is he doing? Like,
I mean, she was amazing because she was 7 months pregnant at the time. So I had a 1-year-old, and she was about to have our second. And I asked her, and she's so supportive. And she said, if you want to do it, just go and do it. And I was like, it's going to be a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, a lot of traveling, a lot of scary phone calls. And she went, is the house at risk? And I went, no, we'll sort that out. She said, if the house isn't at risk, we'll survive. So I went and done it with her back in. And she's very good at what she does. She's a head teacher. And so she's much more grounded than I am. So she let me go and have this pipe dream. I don't think she thought it'd be anything. I think she thought I'd get out of my system for a couple of months and go and get a real job. I think she's all right with it now. She's come to terms with it now.
I'm such a huge believer in not having regrets. And I think taking that plunge, if you look back in 50 years and hadn't done it, you'd have been sitting there thinking, what if? And like you say, if you do it and it don't work out, you just get a job somewhere else. Like, we all do it.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely right. I actually have the words "take a chance" tattooed on me, which is a Vegas tattoo that I got on my stag do with my best man at the time. And they say take a chance. And I think it'd be really stupid when a chance like this comes along to not take a chance if those are the words I've got inscribed in my body permanently. So, yeah, I thought I'd better do it.
When I was 16, right, I should never have done it. I'm sure it's illegal, but I had some Japanese symbols tattooed down my arm, right?
Yeah.
And they told me they meant things like to do one's best and all this like really inspiring stuff. So I had it done. Anyway, fast forward like 20 years later, I was working in a company where we had this Japanese professor come over and he used to teach us lean. And one day I felt really brave. I just said, can you just tell me what this says on my arm? And it said nothing like what they told me it said, right? I can't remember what he said now. He was chuckling to himself. So I had him covered up in the end. Like, but all this time I was walking around and people must have been looking at me like, who are Japanese, thinking, what's that all about? What a wally. So let's talk about the remarkable turnaround that you've had in that period of time. So that was what, 3 years ago you took over?
We're going into year 3 trading now. So it was 2.5 years going into year 3 trading.
So, I mean, there's probably so much to cover in this part of the subject, but how did you go about achieving that kind of turnaround?
I think the first and foremost, and probably still the most important thing we've done was to be very honest with people. So the business that had gone administration and ultimately liquidation had let down a lot of people. It had let down 180 members of staff. It had let down, 100 creditors that were probably owed a couple of million quid. It had let down its customers because it was failing to deliver. So the first thing we did was to be very honest with people and sort of lay our souls bare. So to go to our customers and go, we know this is going to cause you problems. We completely understand it. Here's the reason why. If we're able to do something over the next couple of months, could you at least let us come and talk to you? That's all we want, is an audience with you for an hour. And they were, without exception, willing to talk to us once we got something off the ground. So that gave us a little bit of confidence that there might be something there to go at. The second thing was to bring back a very small number of staff who we could trust that were going to work really, really hard to help us get it off the ground. And then it was to be really honest with the people that were owed a lot of money that says that we can't right all the wrongs day one. We can't make you whole again. The delta's too big. But what we can do is we can give you an opportunity to work with us again on different terms, different pricing structure, different level of integrity, a different open book policy. And we'll come and talk to you and we'll show you what you want to do. And if you give us a bit of wood, we will pay you on these terms. We'll stick to our word. When we do that, we want 2 bits of wood the next week. And it was sort of small acorns, really. And we brought back 6 people, and then month 2 it was 22, and now we've got 102. So it was slowly, but it was all focused around honesty and integrity.
That's amazing. Was it really hard with those customers to rebuild that brand that they've been let down with, or was it challenging?
I think there was different levels of challenge. I think we had to be honest, and we had to explain the journey we'd been on with private equity. We had to explain a lot around the macroeconomics, and we walked away. We were a £30 million business, losing 3 million, working with 35, 40 customers. And because we were chasing turnover in those years, 10, 12, 15 of those customers weren't the right customers for us. Either they weren't paying on time, the mix of work wasn't right. We'd gone into industries that weren't aligned to what we actually do. So when we decided to stick to our knitting and get back to our basics of what we do really, really well as being a UK manufacturer, we explained that to our customers and they got it. And that was what they wanted us to do. They wanted us to go back to what we were doing 2 years before. So we were just trying to ask them to remember the times when we were amazing and we were doing all the right things. And if they could judge us on that and not the sort of 6 months building up to the administration, then that would hold us in good stead. And look, they didn't come back with £1 million orders day one. They came back slowly, here's a couple of £100 and here's a couple of £1,000. And it took a while to build up that trust again for sure. But, hopefully we're there now. We deliberately didn't do any new business for the first 12 months, just wanted to concentrate on the core customers. And actually the market started coming towards us. People started coming back to us and saying, will you work with us again? And some we said yes to, and some would say no. Unfortunately, we can't service your account because we haven't got the infrastructure today, or we can't afford to purchase your stuff from China and meet the margins that you need to because we haven't got that sort of cash on hand. So we'll talk to you in 2 years' time or 3 years' time. So it was a really bespoke solution, really individualized to each customer.
It must have been hard as well, because 2.5 years ago, you're sort of smack bang in the middle of COVID. I mean, to be doing this in that environment must have just added a whole new layer of complexity.
Yeah, I guess from memory, we were coming out the back of COVID. So during COVID, COVID probably for us masked a lot of problems that existed in the business previously, because obviously the business could take out, CBILS loans and government grants and all sorts of things. And what the business was able to do was just switch to, because we're a shop fitting design company. We're making, shop in shops, or we're making stands and units that go into retailers or for brands. We just switched the business to making COVID screens. So for a year, all we made was cheap plastic with a bit of metal on the base and stuck it in a retailer. And because we had plastic and we had the machinery, actually that last year wasn't particularly bad for us. It was, we had the furlough scheme available to us. So it probably covered up problems that existed in the business the year before that. So as we came out the back of COVID and the PPE work dried up, the core work didn't come rushing back or flooding back at the same rate. That was when the wheels started to fall off.
I look at shop windows now in a totally different way since I started speaking to you. I look at them now and I think, oh, no, what goes? Normally you just walk past them, you don't even look. But I look at them differently.
I'm not doing my job. I'm not doing my job if you're walking past them.
What was that film of when I was a kid and there was this mannequin that came to life? What was that? Do you remember the one I mean?
Genuinely don't.
And he fell in love with the mannequin. And then when people weren't looking, I think it was Tom Hanks. It might have been Tom Hanks. And he stayed in the department store overnight to be with this mannequin. Someone will know what it is. Someone will tell us. But it was a brilliant film.
I'm going to have to find it. I've got a mannequin factory out the back. I hope they don't come to life at night.
Yeah, don't say that.
Yeah.
You ain't got those dolls like what Del Boy had, have you?
I haven't. No, but that is some classic British TV right there. That is fantastic.
Yeah, love it. I always end up talking about Only Fools and Horses. People must listen to this podcast going, what's this guy on? Like,
best thing ever made. Dan 40 Towers, best thing ever made.
So strategic wise then, so what decisions and initiatives contributed to the success? What did you really have to do at that very early stage to sort of set yourself on that right road?
One of the first things we had to do was negotiate with a landlord of 130,000 square foot site that hadn't been paid their rent for 6 months, that we were going to stay there for 6 months and pay them a very minimal rent while we tried to exit their building safely. So that was like a really big challenge because, these guys probably owed £1 million and say, look, we can't afford to pay you, but we're going to get our machinery out of your site safely and leave you a clean site. And we'll give you a token gesture each month for that privilege. Because what we had to do, the site wasn't viable. The site was 130,000 square foot. Rent was £2.6 million a year. We had to take the business to a new location, a new home effectively. And so the first thing we had to do was balance up where that home should be. We were in Stratford in East London, which is, it's quite sought after real estate at the moment. But we had 100 people that we were going to need for the business plan that were employed from the local area. So taking the business to Manchester, I would have got amazingly great, cheap space, cheap rent. Taking the business to Wales would have got very cheap rent, but I would have no staff. So we had all this core skill. So we had to balance out a geographical move versus the cost of the move, the cost of the ongoing rent and commitment versus the loss of the workforce. So that was the biggest strategic thing we had to do within the first few months. We took the decision to keep the business in London. I mean, Kesslers Essex didn't quite have the same ring to it. So Kesslers London was the name we gave it on day one. And we felt like we kind of tied ourselves to London quite early. But we took it out to the right, to the periphery of London. You could hit Essex with a stone. And we found a site that was 40,000 square foot, so about a third of the space. And we said, that's our new home. And almost everybody said, it's too small, it doesn't work. You're going from 130 to 40, it doesn't work. And I was like, well, that's when I started to take an interest in optimization and lean and 5S, because previously I come from a sales background. I didn't care. I didn't care about lean. I just wanted my stuff on time for my customers. But now it was mine, and then the cash flow was mine, and the cost of sale was mine. I had to start taking a real interest in how much work we produce from this site to make the business profitable and viable, but also to keep a workforce employed that was going to make it and didn't have to travel too far. So that was probably the biggest strategic thing that we had to deal with in the first few months.
It must have been hard going from being an employee to being the owner and having to make these decisions. What a transition that is.
I guess in some way, yes, and in other ways, I came out the back of it having spent the last couple of years watching people not doing it well, and they can have their suits on and they can have their their accountancy degrees and all these sorts of things, but actually it doesn't mean they understand the fibre of the business. And having worked there for a while, I felt like if I'd done it with the best intentions and I've done it genuinely and done it as me, if I tried to reinvent myself as something that I wasn't, then I wouldn't have carried the people with me. They would have seen it was through me as fake. So I thought if I do it honestly and I bare my soul and I tell people what I'm trying to do and I'm honest with people, if it works, we stand up in front of the business every month and we give them the results. So they know for better or worse whether we hit target, both from a turnover and profitability level. And if I bare my soul, they'll come with me. And, it's got its challenges at times because you can't be friends with everybody. You've got to make tough decisions. But 99% of the time, I walk around the shop floor and I'm talking to people as like they're my friends. And we're all kind of in it together.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's so often overlooked. I've always been a big fan of having daily Gemba walks, getting down on the shop floor, walking around, talking to people, the people that are doing the job, and asking them those open-ended questions, talk to me about, or tell me why, or how do you feel about this? Make them feel part of it. And I think in the time that I've spent with you over the last week or so, I think that I definitely pick up that you are very much a people-driven leader. You respect people and you value their inputs.
Absolutely. I think it's by a lot of retail. I think retail is such a great people leveler across the board, whether you're a customer or you're a worker within the retail environment. I think it's the lost art as well. I think it's the one thing that some businesses don't do very well. When I look at businesses that don't do well around me or in the macro industry, I just think they've lost touch of it, of almost reality, really. Or they've lost touch of the fire of the business. So yeah, absolutely. We're out there every day talking to people. I know what Shanta had for dinner last night.
No, it's great though that you make that time and you get down with the people, because it really does go so far that you are there giving them that time, because so often people don't. One of the other things I was just going to mention is that when you was talking about the size of the warehouse and the square footage, one of the things that I've always found, they only work on the ground level. So you imagine you've got this big tin warehouse. It's one level, but everything's on the floor. You've got all of that space above it that's all wasted space. And in some places I've been, we've put mezzanine in and we've put extra floors in. And there was this one organisation where things were sorted into areas, but then they had to be stored before they went to the next area. And traditionally, there was moved to another area of the plant and then stored in a floor space. But that floor space was then wasted for the next 6-7 hours whilst it was waiting to be dispatched, whereas you could actually have another line running there and sort of increase your throughput. So what we did is we created this system where the storage moved it up into the air. So it sat above where all the work was. It lifted it up like mechanically. And all of a sudden, our warehouse doubled in size because we had double the footprint, because you can now move it up in the air. And I always wondered, I've never seen that anywhere else that I've ever been other than that one site. And I was like, why has no one else done this?
This is gonna sound like we practiced this, and I don't know, you might have to edit this out, but this is the God's honest truth, and we haven't spoken about this. I finished installing a mezzanine floor last week.
No way.
Hand to God, I finished installing a mezzanine floor last week, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our sample shop and prototype shop, which is a really highly skilled carpentry-led kind of group of guys, off the shop floor, put them in the mezzanine, because most of their tools are hand tools, and they're doing a lot more with their hands, and they don't need access to the big plant that's down there. We're going to put in another machine, and we're going to put in a bigger assembly area. And literally, no word of a lie, finished it last week.
That's amazing. See, this is meant to be, isn't it? I mean, this is just...
I'll send you a photo.
Oh, no, I love it. It's so good. And the fact that you weren't really into things like lean and stuff before, yet, as a business owner and you're trying to maximize and trying to get all of the juice out of your orange, I just love it. It's brilliant. Just get lost in it. I want to talk about your philosophy for nurturing a culture of problem solving and continuous improvement, because it sounds like you're doing it. How do you encourage your people and your teams to sort of get involved and engaged in that culture?
I think it comes from a place of honesty. I think certainly from a senior management team meeting which we have once a week, we genuinely have a job titles off the table. So we've got 7 of us in the room. I'm a managing director by default. I didn't actually have designs of doing this, and therefore I'm the youngest one in the room. But I don't know it as much as they know more than me about a lot of parts of the business. And therefore, if I pretend I know more or I try and kid my way through it, they're too clever. They're gonna call me out, and I think that filters right away down the business. If I try and tell a guy that's running a wood machine that he's not doing it right, who am I to tell him? He knows me as the salesperson from 3 years ago. So I think what I can add is a little bit of critical thinking, a little bit of oversight. I can look at a balance sheet and a cash flow, make sure that makes sense. But from an operational standpoint, I'm taking my guide from the people that have been doing it for 20 years because they know they've seen it all before. They've done it for 4 owners. They've done it for different operations directors. So if he tells me the right way of doing it is this way, I'm going to accept that and I'm going to take that at face value and we're going to run it. We're going to do it that way. And then if we make a mistake, we own it, right? So I think we make mistakes routinely, weekly, daily, monthly, and we own them and we rewind back from them. We have a zero blame culture. So if someone tries to do the right thing, I don't know how you can hold them responsible if they're trying to improve your business, but they make a mistake. That's on you, right? If they get it right 9 out of 10 times, you're going to have such a better business for that. So I think it's about taking down any sort of blame. I think it's about taking down any sort of fear. I think it's about rewarding. I think it's about, I'm talking about monetary, yes, but I think there's also a rewarding people with a better workplace. So we spoke about competing with these huge global businesses. We've got people on the shop floor who are paid 10% above minimum wage. They could probably go and work in 20 different places. So how do I compete with the Amazons or the Tesco's or the going to be a delivery driver for DPD? I've got to think of, how do I make my workplace stand out above them? How do I make it more fun, more exciting, more challenging, more rewarding, and all of those things? And we spend a lot of time talking about how we do that as an SMT and how we filter that down to everybody in the business.
I want to be part of this. It sounds so good. I could sweep up sawdust.
You can come and help me with my lean. I don't pretend to be an expert. I read The Machine That Changed the World was my first book. I read that. I read it's the Toyota factory, isn't it? And
it is, yeah.
All of that stuff. So I'm doing my reading at the moment, but I am in no way an expert. So if you want to come and give me some,
I'd love to.
Cheap advice, then, Matt. I need it cheap, right?
Cheap advice. Do you know what? What I love about continuous improvement is that you never know all the answers. It's always a learning experience. And everywhere you go, every organization, every work area, every business, every industry, it's never the same. It's always different. And that's what makes it so exciting, is because there's always more ways to improve.
So that's what excites me about retail is it's never the same thing. We're never doing the same. We're never on the same project. We're never making the same unit or the same customer. Every customer's got a different brand or a different brand interpretation. So every day's a school day.
And it's interesting that you're talking about experience of your people who know the roles, and obviously they know it better than you. So it doesn't show respect for people if you go down there and start telling them how to do it. If you relate that back to everyday life, you don't go into your doctors and go, by the way, I've got a rash. I'm telling you now what it is. This is what I want for it. You're expecting their expertise to help you. The same way you don't go down the chip shop and go, right, I want a cod and chips, but I want the cod, but you need to roll it around in that flour. Then you need to put it in that batter. Then that goes in there 6 minutes, and then I want it dished up. I want it rolled 3 times in the paper. You wouldn't do it, would you? You're trusting them that they know their
I wouldn't
trade.
dream of doing it. Absolutely. And they put a huge amount of trust into me to lead the business or to run the business, to pay them every month. And so the trust is two ways. So they're trusting me. Of course, I've got to trust them back that they know what they're doing. And that doesn't stop you asking probative questions. So if someone's done something for 20 years, asking why you've done it for 20 years, have you considered that? And if they can defend or rebut you, then that's absolutely fine. I think it's about nurturing a culture of challenging each other, but then accepting when something's right. Because if you do go to someone and ask them why they've done it, and they go, I never thought of doing it that way, and you change it together, you've got a better business for it. If you try and enforce change on it, then for me, you're into a shoe-in.
Why do some people think that just because they're more senior than they know more, and that gives them the God-given right to go down there and tell that person how to do their job?
I think if you could answer that question, you would be on a incredibly high retainer with some of the biggest businesses in the world, because there seems to be this absolute sense of arrogance and complacency that exists. I've worked in various businesses and been part of takeovers and watched takeovers happen, and part of successful businesses and unsuccessful businesses. And it always seems to be this kind of, I know better. I'm walking in day one and I'm going to change your life, and it's going to be for the better, without ever really taking the time to understand why something exists. And I guess from the outside and coming into talking about things like lean and 5S and stuff, it's always been my challenge back to the lean practitioners that I've seen come into businesses, which is 2 or 3 different either individuals or companies. And it's not their fault because actually they're measured on their output. So if you're a board paying for someone to come in and do a month review of your business, you want to see something at the end of the month that looks tangible and that like they're going to make a saving or optimization or increase capacity. But they come in and they'll say, map your process. I don't think most of them really care what your process is. They want to tell you what the process should be without ever really taking the time to understand what it is. And then you're going to have to correct me when I go wrong here because you know much more than. But for me, when I read Lean and I read the theory, it's people centric. It's absolutely based on empowering people and taking ideas and putting them to principle. But my lived experience of that isn't always the same. It's always about the tangibles and the metrics, but not always taking into account the people factor, the culture factor. You know, I've got Carol next to Shanta downstairs bending plastic for, they've been doing that for 20 years and they talk for 8 hours a day while they're doing their work and they're doing it really efficiently. And if you move Carol over there, she's going to be really disheartened because actually she's lost her friend at work, but it might save me 4 minutes a day of material move. But she's going to leave next week because now she's really unhappy. Do you know what I mean? That people factor never really comes into it. And I think I listened to David Savage podcast that you did with him, and he was the first person I've ever who's sort of ever been that guru in that sphere that's really sort of seemed like he got it. He seemed to completely understand the people factor. And it was really enjoyable listen, actually.
Yeah, it's nice when you get those moments when you listen to someone who's been there and done it, and you know you're thinking the same way as what they do. You get the moment of yes, I'm on the right
Yeah,
path.
yeah,
But it's true. The whole premise of lean is about respect for people. If you overlook that, if you park it and say I'm going to come back to that later, right now we just need to save some money. It's not going to work. In the long run, you're going to lose out because you have to take the people with you. If you don't,
yeah,
I've been in organizations where it's just been lean has just been rolled out to make it look good for the stock market, or it's just been rolled out to make it look good because there's a senior leader coming down and we want to look like we're leading the way. And as soon as they go, you mothball it in the corner like you do your Christmas decorations. You stick them in the loft for 11 months and you whip them out again. That's what we did with lean. And then we were like, well, why are we not seeing any performance improvement? And then you start fudging the numbers. You start going, well, if we exclude that data because, it was raining that day, and if we exclude that data, so-and-so was late that day, it looks good. Then you start playing with it, and it's not real, is it? You've
yeah.
got to
No,
keep it real.
absolutely. We work with a customer. I won't name them because I'll get in trouble. But a big global brand, and every year their CEO will come over from Europe and we'll do a sort of UK retail walk. And they basically we get told the itinerary where they're going to go for 2 weeks before. We then spend 2 weeks going around those very specific retailers to make them look the best version of themselves. So half of 1% of the estate that he sees, he goes away and he's all very happy with what he saw. But it's not true. It doesn't represent
It's a
99.5% of the estate that's
pantomime.
out there. It's absolutely fake. And, we always smile and they know what they're doing. I'm sure he probably knows, but it's all a bit faux. And you kind of think if we just put a little bit more effort into it throughout the year, we'd never have to do that.
Yeah. If you're one of those people on the factory floor doing the job day in, day out, and they see that happening, what message is that sending to them? Because they're going to be sitting there thinking, this is ridiculous. Like, why are we doing this?
Absolutely. And it breeds complacency and contempt, really.
Yeah, it's madness. I want to know more about this from a personal perspective for you because, kind of being like a paramedic that's been called out to resuscitate a 130-year-old business. It is a massive ask. And you've already said that you had one child. You had another one that was due within a couple of months. You've got a wife that's heavily pregnant. You've got bills, you've got mortgages, you've got all this going on. How do you find the time to do this?
I think, I get to come on and talk to you. I get to put stuff on LinkedIn. I get to be the face of the business. But I am incredibly lucky that I chose the right people day one to come back and work with me from a management team perspective. It's really easy for me to talk to you with the rhetoric and to say, I'm a practice sales guy, right? That's easy to do. But the actual implementation of it is about the management team around me. Like genuinely, I trust them implicitly. I could go away on a 2-week holiday and I don't worry about the business because we've all got the same ambition for the business. So that was probably the best thing I did was to put the right people around me. And I'm not talking about people that will agree with me all the time. We have a lot of conflict, with a lot of debate, a lot of sometimes friction, but always healthy friction. I want to be challenged. I want people to say, you're a bloody idiot. That's a stupid idea. Don't do it. And I'm super ambitious. I'm super driven for the business. And sometimes someone needs to say, stop, too much too soon, put the brakes on. So how do we do it? The answer to that question, how do I do it? Is I don't do it. I don't do it. I'm the mouthpiece of the business. It is genuinely a leadership team effort supported by another 96 people in the business that have bought into the vision, I guess. From a home life point of view, I spent a long time trying to have my son. It's 5 years. So I'm now a really conscious father. Like, I really do try and leave work at 5:30, get home for bath and bed and spend that hour and a half with no phones and just focus on spending time with them at weekends. I'm a really attentive dad. And then if he goes to bed, I might get the phone out and do a bit more work or the laptop out. And that's fine because there's nothing on TV anyway. I get real enthusiasm and excitement now that they're getting to the age I can start to really enjoy them, from my kids and my wife as well. I have a release valve as well. I love going out with my friends. I love a night out. I still pretend I'm 25 and want to go out to the bars and do the shots and stuff like that. So I have a release valve, and I think it's really important to get that balance because you can become consumed by it. And I try not to take anything too seriously. It all went wrong 3 years ago, and I would everything else since then is a bonus, and we're going to enjoy it, and we're going to try and do it really, really well, but we're going to try and enjoy it along the way because I think you've worked too long not to enjoy what you do. And we work in such a cool industry. I work in retail. I get to see the new Nike store in New York. I get to work at the front end of this huge industry that's creating jobs and creating excitement and creating enthusiasm because we're all consumers of retail. So I feel like I get to do things that's something really exciting. So that gets me out of bed every morning as well.
13-time Shingo Prize winner Dr. Jeffrey Likert and Toyota Kata author Mike Rother have created the Improvement Kata and Coaching Kata online course. This inexpensive, compact program is designed to transform your thinking and approach, making you a highly skilled learner and coach. Engage in deliberate practice to turbocharge your progress. You also get lifetime access to the materials, including all of the bonus interviews. Why pay up to 10 times the price elsewhere, listening to some consultant, when you can gain direct insights from the masters themselves? Skip the rest and go with the best. Join us today and embark on your journey to excellence. Just click on the link below to start your journey.
With 30 years of experience in certifying a range of improvement techniques, BQF is the standard you can trust in an ever-expanding market of qualifications. To gain a BQF certification, you need to demonstrate more than knowledge. You need to prove that you've been there, done it, and have learned from your mistakes. A BQF certification guarantees professionals who can walk the walk. Once certified by BQF, you are listed on their certification register where you can annually update your status to prove that you're still practicing your skills. BQF certifications come in 4 levels: Associate Practitioner, Practitioner, Advanced Practitioner, and Master Practitioner, giving opportunity to grow and develop in each of these areas. Head to bqf.org.uk today to find out more about certifications in change management, customer experience, Lean Six Sigma, living your values, mental health and well-being, personal development, and program and project management.
I can see it. I can see the energy like coming off you. It's amazing. I wrote a blog actually the other day about what is good leadership. And one of the things that I put in there, and it's really funny you just mentioned it, was listening to people that were around you, like not taking the credit for other people's work. And there's nothing worse than when you work for somebody who will get you doing all the work for them, and then they'll, on a call, you're on the call with them, and they'll go, yeah, I've produced this paper. And you think, well, you didn't produce it. I did it for you. And you don't do that. You can see straight away that you're giving that recognition to the people that are doing the work for you, which is incredible.
I'll take the credit for putting them in the role, right? That's all the credit I need, yeah. And I don't exist without them. I don't have a business. I don't pay my mortgage the same way without them. But that's my leadership team. But it's also the guy on the spray booth, or it's the guy on the wood machine. We kind of had this rallying cry where we're going to try and do it together. It's us against the world, kind of day one. And it's kind of got us through quite well. So why come away from that? So we're still on this sort of regeneration plan. We're still trying to re-establish ourselves. I'm not arrogant enough to think that 2 years does a great business make, right? In 3 years' time, if we've done it 5 years on the bounce, then maybe there's an accolade or an applause there or something. But 2 years it could just be really good luck. So we've got to keep working really hard at it.
You're on the right path. I have no doubt you're on the right path. It sounds amazing. That escapism piece where you need to sort of chill out and download.
Yeah.
I'm quite into Formula One. I used to play like Formula One games online and stuff like that, but before I had kids. Now I spend all my spare time trying to sort out my son's Minecraft that he's locked himself out of and stuff like that, right? I'm on the other side of it. But last year, my wife took the kids away for the week, Monday to Friday, on some sort of cheap package holiday. I was at home all week on my own. By Monday afternoon, I'd bought myself the new Formula One game for the Xbox. I'd bought myself the steering wheel, the simulated steering wheel and pedals. I'd bought myself the rig to put it all on and all that. I'd even bought myself racing gloves, right? So it felt real. And it all arrived Tuesday morning. And Tuesday to Friday, literally, no word of a lie, I was on this racing simulator non-stop, right? It was so good. I was ordering Indian every night. So I had 3 Indians in a row. I had all these beers in the fridge. It looked like I'd had some kind of like men behaving badly stag party.
It's like being back at uni. Love it.
It was amazing. It was like a holiday in itself. It was absolutely brilliant.
3 days out of 365, that's less than 1%. You can't be that bad.
But it's funny though how when you have kids, you do change. Like if I've got, if I'm invited to a stag do now and it's going to cost me 300 quid, because most stag do's now are going abroad, aren't they? Everyone wants to go off somewhere or other. And that's going to be 300-400 quid plus spending money. I sit there and go, do you know what? I'd rather spend that money on going away with the kids and like having a family holiday. I wouldn't enjoy it going on a stag do as much as I would going away with them, because you create those memories and, you remember them, don't you? And they remember them.
They really do, and they're at the age they absorb everything, and it's and I'm sure it sounds cliche, but I have so much fun with them, and it's genuine fun. It's not fake fun. It's not forced fun. I've been on stag do's where you're kind of forcing yourself to do riding pedalos, and you know what? I'm nearly 40. Like, sometimes you can have amazing times on stag do's, and sometimes I'm a bit too old for it. I went to a venue last night because I am 40 this year, and they're booking a venue for a party. They said, how much money are you going to put behind the bar? And most people would put a couple of £1,000 behind the bar. So people can pay for their own drinks, right? Yeah. That's £2,000. That's a holiday with my kids. That's £2,000. I'll take them to Centre Parks, or I'll do something with them instead. Yeah. Right? And if you want to come to my party, you can. I'll give you a sausage roll, but you can pay for your beer.
Yeah, damn right. You should pay for people's drinks as well. They should be buying your drinks. It's your birthday.
The woman there looked at me like I was a right cheap though. She
yes,
like scowl. I was like, okay.
Anyway. So I want to talk about innovating retail design, because as I said to you before, right, I've never really noticed it. I notice it on the films. So when you watch things like Home Alone and they're going into New York at Christmas, they just look stunning, like all the designs.
Yeah.
I used to commute to London quite a lot and have to walk through Westfield to get between the 2 Stratford stations.
Okay.
And walking through Westfield, you'd see the shops, and I'd noticed they'd change quite frequently. But again, I never really paid attention to what went into it. So you've kind of opened up a whole new world for me now, and I'm going to start sort of studying it and wondering what's going on. But what insights can you share about the way Kesslers' approach to retail design has been so popular? What is it that you do differently?
So first of all, Westfield, Stratford is our home territory. So the former factory was in Stratford. So Westfield, we were in Westfield every day for lunch. It was I used to have a £25 a day lunch habit because
£25 a day.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah.
Where was you eating?
Well, that's the thing with Westfield. You've got a choice of about 20 different places. So all these
going to them all every day. There was like a pub crawl.
I was having a 3-course meal for lunch, every day. And I was, so that's the bad thing about moving out to where we are now, is there's nothing around here apart from a Tesco Express. I think you've got to kind of stay up to date with what retailers are doing. And I think COVID has accelerated the change in retail. The change was coming, and it was coming slowly. It's a bit like sustainability. Sustainability has been a buzzword for 20 years. Previously to COVID, the buzzword was experimental. Well, that's now here. It's now live. It's happening right in front of our eyes. Post-COVID, footfall has returned to where it was post-COVID, which, if you think about it, it's almost a little bit perverse. Because why? Because actually, during COVID, you didn't shop, you didn't go anywhere. And what you had is you had no need to go anywhere because everything was online, and every click that you could get anything. So why are you out there shopping at the weekends with your children or your wife or your friends? Well, you're doing it because you're getting an experience. And some of those experiences are positive and some of them are negative. And if you look at sort of retailers that haven't innovated particularly well over the last 5-6 years, 10 years even, like Maplin or Toys R Us or Wilko recently, which is incredibly sad, their stores became really dull and boring and not really nice places to go. They became a necessity. So what you've got in a post-COVID world is you've got footfall at the same level. The average spend is gone up because more people are shopping luxury, or more people are going into value and buying more. And you've got this real squeeze in the middle. So it's kind of these middle of the road retailers that have really started to struggle and now competing for a much less market share because you've got this click to order. So if you look at retailers like Louis Vuitton or Prada or Hermes, they're opening bricks and mortar. And the reason they're doing that, I think, and I think it comes on the back of what Nike did in New York, is they get that bricks and mortar retail is no longer about an OPEX cash receipt through the till. It's about your relationship with the brand. So if you open a store in Oxford Street and you go in and have an amazing experience with Hermes or a Mont Blanc, you might go home and order it online. And they have now got sophisticated enough that they can separate that in their P&Ls and their operational plans to being directly linked to the bricks and mortar experience that you have. So it's about creating brand loyalty, brand value, brand, whatever the word is. And how are they doing that? Well, it's about experience, and our mantra, and it's a vision that we'll never achieve, but you set visions that you strive for, is to make the UK the most exciting retail experience in the world. And we do that by really focusing on a few things around design. So creative design, incorporating technology, instant gratification, AI, augmented reality. How do you put that into physical retail stores? Because we're all used to it. We've all got it on our phone. So it's got to be part of your shopping experience. So when you go into the new M&S store, and they spent a lot of money on 5 stores last year, and you go into a store that hasn't had that treatment, and you compare the two, they're chalk and cheese. And you come out of that store and you are enthused and excited, and you've had a great relationship, you've had a great experience with M&S. You might go home and order your Christmas shopping from the M&S, but you've had a great experience with being in that physical environment. So we're saying that we're a UK manufacturing business and we can do anything. We've got some amazing creative designers, we've got some great young people, we've got some experts in the industry. We can give you anything. And we can make it here in the UK. We can make it quickly because retail's quick now. It's much more agile. So spaces become available. More retailers are doing pop-up shops or fashion shows, or they're putting physical retail into Glastonbury, for example. And we can react to that ever-changing market. And actually, we can give you a really cultivated, experimental display, unit, shop experience that your customers are going to remember.
I'm a sucker for Superdry and Hollister. Firstly, as soon as you get to the store, it's just got this vibrant, modern just feel about it. Then you go in there. I really like the dark wood and the spotlights and the really dark lighting. It's just like going to a nightclub to buy clothes.
Yeah.
And then once you've been into that experience, you buy the clothes and they fit nicely. Like it's a good quality product and you like the brand. And exactly what you say now, I will now go online and buy those products in that brand because I just like the feel of the store. Even though I'm not going to the store, I'm still doing it. The one thing I do find though is down near me, there's a designer outlet. I go to this designer outlet. It's in a circle, so it's quite nice. You can walk around it. But I find I don't walk around it once. I walk around it 3 or 4 times, and I always leave disappointed because I can never get what I want. It used to be that those outlets used to sell like last year's stock, and they used to knock out stuff a lot cheaper. But it feels like they don't do that anymore. It feels like they just sell the stock you get in a normal store, and it's the same price. Like it doesn't seem any different. It's kind of lost its magic.
I do know. I live in Essex. I'm not too far away from Freeport, which is exactly the same as a designer outlet village that has gone through exactly the same journey. And I'm not sure whether these outlets. Bicester is probably the exception. Bicester, you can you could book a tourist trip from China to go to Bicester. So you come to the UK, you do your tourist trip, and there's coachloads of people coming down from King's Cross and Euston and London to go to Bicester Village. And actually,
Wow.
the experience in that outlet store, they are nailing it absolutely right. And if you go to Bicester, the Tommy Hilfiger store in Bicester, that is experimental retail working really, really hard for you. And then you've kind of got these little, like my one and potentially your one, these kind of little outliers that are kind of in the middle that aren't really servicing anybody because they're not really value anymore, but they haven't really gone full hog and given you that real experience. And those are the spaces and the retailers and the brands are either going to have to innovate and get off the pot, or they're going to lose that space.
Yeah, because they've not adapted, have they? They've not
No.
adapted to the market. I
No.
tell you what, right? My tip, Next have got it right. If you want to attract people into your store, stick a Costa in there because I will go to Next. Whenever I go shopping, I go to Next because it's got Costa in there.
We had this conversation yesterday, didn't we, about Costa versus Starbucks.
It's funny because you never see a Starbucks inside a store, do they? They have never done that.
They did it. They did it with Sainsbury's, for, very small number of stores, and they took them out But cost of being in next is part of that experience. So experience could be technology. It can be about the customer service you receive. It could be about whether they've got a coffee shop and a play area for the kids. It doesn't have to be about virtual reality or things flying off the wall at you. It's just about your experience in that store. Because I'm not suggesting that every value retailer is do the same treatment as what Nike have done in New York, but getting the experience right in store. Because my wife loves Next as well. Everything in our house is Next, and we're there every weekend, fortunately. But I don't think their stores are particularly imaginative or exciting, but you're absolutely right. They are destinations because they've got a Next home, which is a sort of a play away from the sort of traditional Next clothing. So Next home is where we spend a lot of time, but they've got a Costa coffee in there. So that's a really small thing that they've done. But I bet you that's driven a lot of people into a Next store that have then made an impulse purchase.
Yeah, my wife will say to me, "Oh, we need to get my 7-year-old a new coat. It's a bit small for her, that one." And I go, "Oh, yeah, you're right." I'll go, "Let's try Next." And she'll go, "Oh, no, 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 we need to go to Matalan or Tico." I go, "No, no, we'll go to Next. I like the quality of Next." And as soon as we get to Next, I go, "Right, you go and look at the coats. I'm just going to go and look in the men's section." I walk straight past the men's section into the Costa, straight in there, nailed it. Well, the only reason we bought our house is because it had a coffee machine built into the kitchen. As soon as I saw that, I was like, "We're having this house."
That's a great reason.
We're having it. I
That's a
don't
great
care what's the
reason.
rest of it. It's brilliant. And do you know what? I use it once a year, whether I want to or not. I will use that coffee machine once a year because it's such a hassle to clean everything and to get it all out. I'd rather just pop over to the petrol station and get a Costa Express.
Absolute convenience.
But that's another one. Costa Express machines. Like, that's just changed the world as well.
Hasn't it just? Convenience.
Some petrol stations as well now offer you, if you get like 30 litres of fuel, you get a free Costa from the machine as well.
Really? I'm missing out.
Yes.
I'm definitely. Maybe I need to convert.
Well, I've gone from saying to my wife, "Oh, I'm always filling these cars up every day." I'm going, "Do you need fuel?" The car needs fuel. I'm sure it needs fuel. I'll go and sort it out.
Love that.
I'm knocking on my neighbour's door, like, "Do you need fuel?" I'll do it for you.
Queued up behind the HGG drivers. Are you using your points today, mate? Can I use them?
I've actually been in the Costa queue behind people where they've ordered their drinks and they've ordered like 30 quid's worth of gear. And then the person goes, "Have you got a Costa card?" And they go, "No." And I have to stop myself and going, "I've got one. I've got one. Use mine. Try this." Right. Anyway, back to why we're here, right? Because I've done it again. I've taken us off topic. I want to understand what the process is for crafting the bespoke POS solutions and shop-in-shop environments. How do you go about doing it? Where do you even start?
So I guess the process is a little bit bespoke and tailored to individual retailers or brands. So working with some brands, they'll have no idea what they want, but they want something amazing. So we sit down with the creative designers, and I was going to say pens and pencils, but it's more iPads and iMacs now. But it used to be pens and pencils. I'm showing my age. And we've got amazing guys who are genuinely artists that can sketch and can draw and can model pretty much anything you can imagine. And they'll sit down and we'll do workshops and come up with these really cool ideas, and design managers and VM managers will love it, and they'll take it off to procurement and they'll go, "It's too expensive." And you kind of go through a design iteration process. And other people, there are huge design agencies out there that do this for a living, the likes of Saatchi X and Giselle Powell, and they will come to us with almost design intent, and then it's up to us as manufacturers to interpret their design intent into what actually works. So we love it when we get involved right at the start, and we can almost work on the strategy of design as to, where is your eye level going to be? What's your ergonomics look like? But sometimes we're just taking someone else's design and making it. How it goes through the factory, we've got the ability to make everything in-house. So woods, metals, plastics, acrylics, vacuum forming, fiberglass. So we're not wedded to any one particular method of manufacturing. We can genuinely design what we think is the right product for the customer, their budget, for the environment it's going to be in, because it doesn't matter to us whether you make it out of cardboard or wood, or we can tailor it to the end user. So we always try and come at it from two aspects. A two-prong approach is, does it hit the design brief? Is it going to deliver what the design brief is? And sometimes that's about return on investment or an uplift in sales. Sometimes it's about a brand, just creating a beacon of brand awareness and quality. So our USP, and is we are competing on a global market in the UK retailers, from people that could procure in China, Poland, Middle East, even North Africa now are starting to have these amazing factories. So our USP has to be quality. We've been doing this 130 years, or 3 years, depending on how you take it. But we've got 100 people in the business working in a factory. we're in control of our own destiny in terms of quality. So we can put our name to everything we do. So how do we approach it? Design and quality are the two things that we absolutely pride ourselves on.
It's lean. It sounds lean. You're on it.
You have to come down.
Do you know what? I'm just going to say, I'm going to come down.
It'll be cool. We do it. I'll bring you a Starbucks. You can bring me a Costa. We can do
we'll do a trade-off.
Well. Yeah.
So look, last question from me, because I could ask you questions for hours. I really could. What excites you most about the future for Kesslers London?
I guess we're going into a time of retail change in that genuinely, I think post-COVID, we are in a new world. I think the world has taken stock, and I think we're ready to kick on into this real destination retail theme park kind of world. So what excites me the most is having a business that's now stable and profitable and able to respond to that. Because when you're in a business that's losing money or is in a bad place culturally, you can't respond to the changing forces because you're constantly fighting fires in your own. So we can take a sort of strategic look at where we want to be as a business. Now that might be an acquisition, it might be partnerships, but we are going to be able to work. We work with some of the biggest brands that you could name. We already get to work with, and we're going to hopefully be their chosen partner to deliver the most exciting and fun retail experiences for the next 10 years. And then I'm going to retire and
live off it, buy your own island and live off the reward.
Nothing like that. No, I was going to live off the wife and just retire and be tired and look after the kids because, it's hard work. But no, I think it's being the masters of our own destiny and getting the business in a stable to be able to respond to the market forces, because it's always felt like we're a bit of a passenger. It's kind of everything's being forced upon us in terms of what our decisions are going to be made. Whereas now we can sort of pick and choose who we work with and get to work with good people and have wonderful conversations and do fun things. Be really proud of what we do. Go into a Charlotte Tilbury store with my wife, and she's looking at the makeup, and I'm going, I made that, I designed it, I created it, and I've got 100 people employed because of it.
It's amazing. What you think those 100 people all come to work in something that you're responsible for? That's like an amazing thing, isn't it? It's great.
Now you said it sounds a bit scary.
It's scary. It is scary, yeah. But it's great, though.
No, it is great. It is great.
You are contributing to all of those people's lives in such a big way. And it's not just those people. It's their husbands, their wives, their kids, their grandkids, their friends, their family, everyone. Like, you contributing to that. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do.
I think that's what I love about retail. It's such a level of retail. Retail. You can go into retail at 16 as a shelf stacker or as a till girl or as a warehouse guy, and you can come out of the other side as an MD or an operations director on 250 grand a year. Retail, I don't think you can replicate that in any other industry. There's so many stories of Tesco CEOs doing that and Sainsbury's CEOs doing that. And there is genuinely a pathway for everybody in retail to have a wonderful and amazing career. And hopefully by some sort of alignment to retail, we can offer the same to other people as well.
I'll have you know, when I was 16, I worked down the local Waitrose. I was the head of the pet food and cleaning aisle. But one side was pet food, one side was cleaning stuff like your Dazzies and your Ariels. It was my job to order the stock to make sure nothing was empty. It was my job to keep it stocked, face it up, make it look nice. Good, that, isn't it?
Everyone has a touch point with retail, and not everyone has a touch point with automotive or with hospitality, but everyone has a touch point, whether you're a consumer of it or you're a stakeholder in it, but everybody's had a retail experience. And I guess that's what gets me out of bed every morning, is that I'm doing something that it feels like it matters. And then my wife says that she's a head teacher and she's looking after the youth of today, and that probably matters a little bit more.
We've all got a role to play. Right, talking of roles to play, I'm going to play the role of a quizmaster now, because if it's time for you to take on the yes-no game. It's the only reason you came on. I know it is.
So nervous.
Don't be nervous.
I'm so nervous.
So normally I give people the choice of a topic. They get card 1, 2 or 3. But I've chosen a card for you today because I thought it was just so fitting. I've chosen retail.
That's even worse, because now if I do badly, it's going to be even worse.
Well, you just don't say yes or no. I'm not going to know if you're telling me the right answer or not. As long as you don't say yes or no, I'm just going to go with it.
Let's do it.
If you hear the gong, it means you said yes, no, or a variance of yes, no. And your challenge is to see whether you can last 60 seconds without slipping up. And I'm going to do everything I can to make you say yes or no. Okay, Daniel, it's your time. I have 60 seconds ready and loaded. Do not say yes or no. Has the adoption of online shopping increased significantly in the UK retail sector?
Absolutely. Without doubt.
What about specific changes or innovations? What have you observed in the online shopping landscape in the UK in the last few months that have made you think, wow?
That's a really technical question. So I think it's the volume. So the value has remained relatively steady. It's definitely the volume of clicks that go through an Amazon now.
About the volume, you say?
I did.
Are many traditional brick and mortar stores in the UK facing challenges due to the growth of e-commerce?
I think they're all facing challenges, but they're also facing opportunities. Those that are doing it well are really seeing the benefits, and those that are not are falling by the wayside, which is really sad.
Do you get sad when stores go down the pan?
I really do.
Honestly, mate, I can't do it. You did it. You smashed it. I couldn't
They
find a
are.
way of catching you out.
I was like, if I give you really long answers, I'd be all right. But yeah, okay.
But the problem is, though, sometimes when you give a really long answer, you become comfortable in what you're saying. And then normally it's the follow-up questions I get people with.
Loved it. Great fun.
Right. Before I let you go, where can people go to learn more about you or reach out to you or even find out a little bit more about Kesslers London?
I am a prolific user of LinkedIn, so you can always get me. You'll see a post most days. Daniel Astarita, Astarita on LinkedIn. Add me. I love friends. I love conversation. Let's have a chat. Or Kesslers' website is www.kesslers.com.
Right. Thank you very much, Daniel. It's been an absolute pleasure. You are an inspiration, and I can't wait to see where you go from here.
Loved it, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Some key takeaways from today's discussion with Daniel. The importance of honesty and integrity really did emerge as a critical step in the turnaround process. Being transparent with stakeholders, including customers, about the challenges Kesslers faced helped to rebuild trust and credibility. Here, Daniel really brought to the surface the power of great communication and transparency and how they are the foundations to building or rebuilding relationships and credibility during challenging times. Actively engaging with customers, explaining the company's journey and seeking their support played a pivotal role in Kesslers rising from the ashes. Daniel and his team have built a connection with their customer base and shown how commitment to improvement has contributed to rebuilding relationships. For me, this is a class touch from Daniel. It clearly demonstrates how customer relationships are a valuable asset, and involving them in the company's journey can foster support and loyalty. Daniel shared some of the strategic decisions that he had to make, such as negotiating with landlords, relocating to a cost-effective location, and how optimizing space usage proved essential in overcoming financial challenges. Daniel said it himself, it's not always easy. You can't always be popular when making the right strategic decisions. But making tough calls, committing to and believing in your vision is critical for navigating challenging periods and ensuring long-term sustainability. Adopting a people-centric leadership approach where regular interactions with employees and maintaining an open and friendly atmosphere are prioritised contributed to the positive and motivated workplace that Daniel describes at Kesslers. Leaders who prioritise their team's well-being and maintain open communication foster a positive work culture, which carries with it lower attrition, loyalty, and a camaraderie in pursuit of that North Star, all of which are essential to long-term success. The ability to be agile and adapt to challenges, such as the impact of COVID-19, showcase both Kesslers and Daniel's agile mindset. Finding alternative revenue streams like manufacturing COVID screens really did demonstrate flexibility in responding to external factors. Adaptability is a key trait for any successful business. Installing the right leadership values that are modelled behaviours throughout the organisation, contribute to a healthy culture. By being agile, Daniel and his team ensure that they can pivot and find new opportunities, continuously improving and meeting their customer needs. Post-COVID, Daniel returned focus to core competencies and successful business practices from before the challenging periods. This allowed Kesslers to streamline operations and retain stability. By identifying and leveraging core strengths, Daniel has been able to deliver for his customers and for his team, helping the organisation to focus and rebuild. Embracing optimization and lean principles, particularly when downsizing warehouse space, contributed to maximizing efficiency and output with limited resources.
Daniel explained how everyone around him was saying that downsizing by such a degree wouldn't work. But by working smarter and not harder, Daniel was able to optimize the space available to maximize the value add. The message here is that efficiency gains through optimizations and lean practices are valuable for maintaining productivity in resource-constrained situations. Even in environments where lean is new to an organization, learning by doing is a win-win scenario for all. Clear and effective communication about Kesslers' new direction, improvement plans and commitment to stakeholders played a significant role in building understanding and support, underlying the fact that clear and well-placed strategic communication is key during times of change, helping to align stakeholders, customers and employees. It's the age-old risk versus reward scenario. Daniel's willingness to take risks, such as buying Kesslers after it went bust, and during challenging times, demonstrated confidence in his vision and his ability to inspire confidence in others. This is brilliant leadership and a testament to Daniel's detailed analysis in order to take calculated risks. Driven by confidence and clear vision, this story is such a great example how risks can lead to transformative outcomes. Achieving a balance between cost effectiveness and retaining essential talent is critical for sustainable operations in any organisation. It's a strategic balancing act of operational costs with the need for skilled and reliable staff. But Daniel has played this well. He knows the value of his people in the success of Kesslers. He respects his people and he understands where he is competing in terms of working conditions and pay. Having this mindfulness, Daniel's been able to create a competitive package for his team, keeping them motivated and retaining talent. If I was to summarise Kesslers' rebirth and success, I would say it's down to a combination of strategic decision-making, financial management, people-centric leadership, and a commitment to transparency and continuous improvement. The ability to adapt to challenges and focus on core strengths has undoubtedly contributed to Kesslers' resilience and growth. Daniel said that Kesslers' goal is to make UK retail the most exciting destination in the world. I have no doubt that that is exactly what Daniel and his team will achieve. My only question is, why only the world? That brings us to an end of this episode of the Ever So Lean podcast. Thanks to Daniel for joining us today and telling us about not only his personal journey, but the wonderful journey of Kesslers London. He's really an inspiration, and I think that the man talks such sense. There's so many wonderful nuggets of inspiration that we can pull from this episode that it's going to take me weeks to pull them apart, but it was absolutely brilliant. If you enjoyed today's episode and want more, be sure to subscribe and follow the Ever So Lean podcast on your preferred platform or visit eversolean.com. There, you can also catch up on any missed episodes and explore the range of services that we're now offering, including leadership coaching, lean excellence consultancy, podcast services, and event hosting as well. Take a moment to like and review the Ever So Lean podcast on your listening platform of choice. It would mean the world to me. Your reviews are really invaluable, and I appreciate each and every one. For those on social media, search for the Ever So Lean podcast, give us a follow, and share your lean efforts, because I really would love to hear all about them. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next episode. And don't forget, Ever So Lean. You know it makes sense. The Ever So Lean podcast is researched, produced and recorded by Matt Sims. Visit eversolean.com to find out more.